What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal. I'm hoping you can hear me. I am here in Cleveland in the media room, the media workroom of Rocket Arena in Cleveland, where the UNM Lobos in about 2 hours from now will be taking on the number 2 seed in the South region, Michigan State Spartans. I am joined by Sean Reider, who is not only a colleague, but he is an expert on the Michigan State Spartans. And Sean, how's it going, man?
It's good, Jeff. How's Cleveland? How you liking it?
It's good. Things are good, man. I guess things were good until I couldn't hear you on the show. So anyway, we are here now, and I'm going to jump over to Twitter really quick and make sure people know that we are now on. Let me ask you this. You, obviously in Albuquerque, didn't, I'm sure, expect that the team covered by the Albuquerque Journal would be playing the team that you are a fan of. So how is it knowing that Michigan State and the UNM Lobos, who we will fill the paper with content of, win or lose, how do you feel about a Michigan State-New Mexico matchup?
I was pretty much on the record all week. I didn't want this game to happen when the bracket came out. I would have preferred a Marquette, frankly. Or I mean, even I don't know if you prefer it, Bryant would beating Michigan State, but at the same time, I just didn't want this game. I think now I've kind of settled into it, thinking about it yesterday and all that too. I think it can be a great basketball game. I really do. And I like just everything going on with both sides, with both teams. I think can be great and be a really compelling game in a lot of respects. But it is weird, right? I don't root for New Mexico, but I've been around the program a good enough deal. I've been around the administration, been around the school. So it's certainly a little odd, to say the least.
So, first of all, where are you going to watch the game?
I'm going to watch it at a friend's apartment.
Okay. Will there be any spirits consumed?
I would say a couple spirits, yes.
A couple spirits. All right. Well, I already took care of all that well before I came to the arena today. Just got hammered here in Cleveland before I arrived. So so people know, as I sit here, I guess, I could still put on this external camera here. I am in the media workroom, and I'm not really, first of all, the NCAA doesn't allow me to do this, even a live remote, even webcast from courtside, because CBS Turner Sports has the entire broadcast rights, and that's fine. So no pregame show courtside or anything that I can show you the game or anything, but I can show you just this media workroom a little bit. If I turn this camera on, give people a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look. Now, mind you, Alabama's playing right now, and most media is out there actually watching the game, not sitting back here talking to people on their computers. All right, so here is, let's actually do it this way. No, that's not the one I want to be big. That's the one I want to be big. All right, let's get this. There we go.
That is an NCAA tournament media room if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, we got some drinks over here. We got Frank Mercogliano's Lobo backpack there with some Diet Cokes and a media guide.
He's crushing a couple DCs, yeah.
It is, and got some snacks and coffees over there. We got all the games. Thursday and Friday, there's obviously a lot more games on at one time, but all the games on the screen over there that right now, I guess on this camera, it doesn't really look like you can see anything, but you can actually see them if you're here in the media workroom. We got Rocket Arena, little scoreboard, what the scoreboard looks like right now out there on the court. And Alabama is up 29-21 as we speak. And then we got more workroom space over here. Tilt that this way. There we go. That's me. So that is the media workroom for now. It is something that is a lot more jam-packed normally, certainly after the game, before the game, and then in the off days, a lot of people in here working, photographers generally over there. The first place I showed you under that big screen, we got the big bracket on the wall over there. So anyway, this is the workroom for the Cleveland hub of NCAA tournament games. And I'm going to go ahead and jump in before I get into some of these questions here. And sorry, I wasn't on right at 3:30 or 4:30 Mountain Time. Sorry, not 3:30 and 6:30 my time. Apparently, when I have Sean on, I am going back to the old school microphone issues of the past. So I haven't had any microphone issues in quite a while, but I blame Sean for this one. Sean, before I do that, Sean, tell everybody why you're a Michigan State fan, how long you were a Michigan State fan, and then tell us just a couple things about this team that you expect to see.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan. I didn't grow up I was born and raised in Michigan. I didn't grow up a Michigan State fan, but was around a lot of Michigan State fans. I think my hometown is a pretty strong Michigan State community, if I'm being honest with you. Ended up deciding to go to Michigan State.
I appreciate you being honest with us.
Yes, yeah. I ended up going to Michigan State. So what that would have been fall of 2018 was when I was first enrolled there, and that's when I really began the kind of the fandom that you take on by going to a school and all that too, and it's continued since. Been fortunate in the past, covered Michigan State basketball, other Michigan State sports, through the student newspaper, the state news, forever indebted for those opportunities for sure. As for this team, I think everybody is kind of coming out, and I don't think anybody's wrong when they say this is kind of a more classic Tom Izzo team, at least compared to the last few years of Michigan State basketball, which haven't quite been, I think, to a lot of the fan standards, to say the least. They've all made the tournament, which, obviously 27 straight years under Tom Izzo in the tournament, one of the great streaks in sports, in my opinion. But really hasn't been kind of quite to the standard. And he kind of famously made the proclamation, like, I'm going to get back to it, and I'm going to get back to doing what worked and making things happen, even if I die trying. And he's really done that. This is a unique team in the sense that it's really, really deep. I think depth is kind of overrated in college basketball for the most part. Because you got 5 guys going and then another 5 guys, not in rhythm or whatever by sitting. But this team hasn't really had that issue. They've been really healthy all year. The one name you probably need to know is Jace Richardson, freshman guard. He's now an NBA prospect. He has been absolutely sensational this year. He's averaging, I think, like 12.4, 12.1 points per game, something like that. There's not like even a 15 point per game score on this team. But Richardson really, since the Rutgers game at Madison Square Garden, and I want to say early to mid-February, has been on a tear. He has been a phenomenal player. He's been a phenomenal freshman. He very well could leave and go into the NBA draft. I think, the highest I've seen him mocked is, pick number 10. Jaden Akins, another guard that's hasn't had the offensive success he was really dreaming of, but there was a very good case for him to be the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. His defense has been phenomenal. Big play at the 5, I should say, has been an issue for Michigan State over the last couple of years. It hasn't been an issue with this team. Carson Cooper and Shimon Zapala, those guys, Zapala, you might remember from Utah State. Those guys have helped out pretty good there. And you got Jackson Kohler, who I think could be a bit of an X factor for tonight's game. They don't shoot the 3 ball particularly well. They guard the heck out of the 3-point shot. I think you would know. You put in one of your stories. They're like 5th nationally in like defensive efficiency, and I don't know where they're like 2nd nationally in like 3-point defense or something like that.
5th and 1, 5th and 1st. They hold.
There we go. 5th and 1.
Yeah, 5th overall in defensive efficiency and 1st in 3-point percentage defense, 27.7%.
Yeah, so very good defensive team. It's a classic Tom Izzo team in the sense that they want to defend, rebound, and run. If you watch the Bryant game, you saw them rebound like heck in the second half in particular, and you also saw them run. So they're going to want to get out. They're going to want to make things happen, and that's kind of what you're looking for tonight.
So I will say that, first of all, as far as the scoring average for the whole season, Jace certainly picked it up later in the season. But Jaden Akins is first at 12.6 a game. Jace Richardson is second at 12.1 per game. As far as rebounding goes, the leading rebounder, Jackson Kohler, at 7.7. They do have a 10-man rotation and play 10 guys 12 or more minutes average-wise. That kind of has cut down to about 8-man rotation a little bit in terms of those primary minutes in conference play, or the last 5 games rather. And so that said, the whole depth thing, you alluded to, you think it's a little overrated. I used to be all in on depth and how it could help a team by just running guys out there over and over and wearing the other team out. That doesn't really happen as much in college basketball with 5 media timeouts per half. The game's only 40 minutes long anyway. NBA games are longer, shorter shot clock, all that kind of stuff. Play 5 games a week as opposed to 2. They're not getting tired. Like they take games off later in the season, but like, long story short, you're not wearing guys out that much in college basketball. So while the Lobos have a 6-man rotation and Michigan State has a 10-man rotation, you're still only playing 5 at a time. And unless you get in foul trouble or have an injury, the depth doesn't really actually come into play nearly as much as people think it does. I will say, though, that when you got 10 guys, it's harder to scout. It is certainly harder to know, that guy's coming off the bench. He does this. Do I now back off this guy? What, how do we adjust stuff? So there's some balance issues with the scouting report when you got 10 guys playing. But Utah State was ranked in the top 25 all season in depth and basically in bench minutes and stuff like that. Michigan State's right up there kind of with them. And Utah State, my opinion on them by the end of the year in the Mountain West, obviously, and I'm not suggesting they're anywhere close to the same kind of team, but in terms of using 10 players, sometimes when you use 10 players, it's because you don't have a 7-man rotation that you want to just stick with. So that said, to their credit, they use it pretty well. They're coming at you in waves. Nobody's going to, foul trouble is not going to be an issue for Michigan State because they got guys at every position and backups at every position that are going to be just good. But let me bring in some of your guys' questions here. First, we got a Fire Reider. Let's do it. We got the Fire Grammar going on with regularity. It's about time you get some of the hashtag.
Yeah,
action.
I need to really step it up. Yeah,
you do. Brandon saying Lobos got this. As of right now, let me pull. I'll just pull up ESPN, the quick one here. It's back down to 6.5. I've seen it move 6.5 to 7.5. It looks like right now it's back down to 6.5 point favorite by Michigan State, according to ESPN Bet. I will point out this stat, and I wrote about it earlier in the year when New Mexico had at that point already struggled against San Jose State, had lost to New Mexico State. It was before they had actually lost to San Jose State later that January too. But I wrote about an evanmaya.com stat called Opponent Adjust. And if you go to evanmaya.com and go to team ratings, the 4th category is opponent adjustment. And I will read to you what it means. It says this measures how well each team performs above or below expectation based on if they're playing an above average opponent on their schedule or a below average opponent. So essentially, if a team plays up to competition or a team plays down to competition, out of 364 teams, New Mexico right now is ranked number 1 in opponent adjust. And that's basically a stat that shows they play up to teams like Michigan State, Marquette. They beat UCLA wire to wire. They beat USC. They beat Boise State by a ton in the pit and lost them obviously later in the year. But handed Utah State their worst loss at home since 1996. The Lobos for big games have generally showed up. They haven't really been blown out yet this year. I shouldn't throw the word yet out there and scare people, but I would be surprised if tonight's a blowout for, by any stretch. I just don't see it being a blowout. I think it'll be a competitive game. I don't think Michigan State will Bryant the Lobos, where it's, somewhat competitive until about 30 minutes in, and in the last 10 minutes, they just blow it open. I don't think that'll happen. That said, when the wheels come off in the NCAA tournament for any team, when the end is near, games tend to kind of end up looking like blowouts, even though, it might have just been a 5 to 7 point game much of the game. The last few minutes, desperation kind of sets in sometimes, and sometimes it gets ugly. So the final score could look bad, but I would be surprised if the Lobos aren't competitive until at least, final 5 minutes or so of this game. All right, Dominic, we got stop asking Patino family questions. Fair enough. It is the number one question here, man. Everybody's been asking the players. Everybody's been asking, Richard Patino, who handles it fine, frankly, with the national media a lot better and outside media than the Albuquerque media now. If the local media is still asking Rick Pitino questions 4 years in, he would probably be pretty grumpy. But they're getting a ton of those Rick Pitino questions this week. Mark has, let's see, Michigan State by 14.5. Book it. Mark, do you want to talk about Mustafa Mzil too? We can do that. I know Mark has certainly been critical of Stoff and went 0 for 4 on Friday, so maybe Mark was right. Stoff shouldn't be playing that much. Of course, he did end up with 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and the best plus-minus on the team, but he did go 0 for 4 shooting. He only shot 4 times, though, so as a starter, maybe you need to shoot more than that. I will not get you started on Stoff. I will not do that. Sorry about that.
Oh, my God.
All right, Lobo Fish, real quick, and then I'll let Sean talk a little more here. Thanks for streaming, Jeff and Sean. Biggest game in 13 years for UNM men's basketball. I think the Lobos win this game 3.5 times out of 10. That's probably right. I'd say 3 out of 10 is probably a good number. They are a top 40 team against a top 10 team. That isn't a Michigan State wins 10 out of 10 kind of scenario. I don't know if it's 3 out of 10 for the Lobos, but it isn't, Michigan State's not winning this game 10 times out of 10. So kind of comes down to what game the Lobos played tonight, right? I don't think Donovan Dent's had 2 games in a row that I would call bad. He certainly had a bad first half on Friday. I'd be shocked if he has those same struggles tonight. Now, they might be able to take Donovan Dent out of the game, but I'd be surprised if he hurts the team like he did in the first half with 8 turnovers in the game the other night. Mark does have a follow-up to the Mustafa Mzil comment, not just struggling shooting, but he points out 3 were air balls. That is accurate. That is accurate. I still think Stoff had a good game, but I am not sitting here defending his shooting either. He had a rough shooting night. Am I seeing, Josh was asking, am I seeing more Lobo fans today than Friday? So far I wouldn't say so. I mean, I'm already in the arena, in the media room, so I'm not seeing what's out there right now. I do know some Lobo fans, unfortunately, whether I won't call them out by name because I don't really know for sure who all of them were, but there were some Lobo fans who had tickets home after the first game and maybe didn't expect to have to fly back on a Monday or a late Sunday night. So some of the Lobo fans that showed up this weekend are just replacing a few that might have had to go home. But I would expect a few more Lobo fans. Yeah, I know some reinforcements were coming from what I hear. And let's do a couple more here. What are the 3 keys to defending Michigan State? I will throw one thing out there, then I'll let Sean kind of talk about like what the Lobos may have to do or what the weaknesses that Michigan State has. The first thing I'll say is this. Michigan State doesn't turn it over a whole lot. I think they average 11.5, something like 11.2 turnovers per game. They have allowed 2 teams all year to score 20 or more points off turnovers. Oregon, they beat, and Memphis, they lost to. And those 2 teams scored 20 or more points off turnovers. The Lobos have had 14 games of 20 or more points off turnovers. So the Lobos certainly rely on and get a whole lot more of their offense off of turnovers than any Michigan State opponent has really all year. I would say if the Lobos and True Washington and Donovan Dent, really Nelly Jr. Joseph too on that hard hedge on the high ball screens, if they can force some live ball turnovers and kind of turn those into points like they have most of their successful games this year, then I can see that as being kind of a weakness or a key to your question. If the Lobos can force some turnovers like they have most teams this year, I think that they should have a chance. Sean, what do you see in watching Michigan State as closely as you have? What do you see as maybe some ways that the Lobos could make this a game?
I think that's a really good point, what you mentioned with the turnovers there. I mean, the really obvious way is don't let them run. I don't think New Mexico is going to be all that interested in, having these slowing the pace down and limiting possessions, to be quite honest with you. So that's kind of the big easy key there. And I think that's what a lot of coaches have had to deal with. Bryant was more than interested in getting out and running as well. And, You just can't do that with Michigan State. Well, you can do it with Michigan State, but it might not go your way all the time. I think for me, I mean, look, I mean, you just really, you have to like be tuned up in terms of the 3-point defense as well too. It is an edge for Michigan State in the sense that yes, they're not a great 3-point shooting team to begin with, but when you're first nationally in 3-point defense, I mean that almost makes you a good 3-point shooting team to begin with. So that to me, I mean, just emphasizing that as well. And I'm certain, you know, I don't coach college basketball. Richard Pitino is a pretty darn good coach from what I can tell at this point. Yeah, I think that's certainly been emphasized as well too. So yeah, it is kind of weird, and I think you mentioned it too, in the sense that you mentioned in one of your game box previews as well that there aren't a whole lot of weaknesses for, you know, teams to really exploit here, if we're being honest. It's kind of tough to pick and choose. Like, hey, here's the book on Michigan State. And that's
so like
why
Marquette,
they've been so imposing.
Yeah, Marquette, you knew what their strengths were, and their strengths were on the perimeter, and their strength was, you know, an All-American guard and Cam Jones. But you also knew what their weakness was, and that was going inside. They were vulnerable to a big man inside, and they showed that 3 times against St. John's with Zuby Ojefer. I guess it's halftime out there, and but yeah, they showed they were vulnerable to a really dominant, good rebounding, physical center. So you kind of knew where to attack them. With Michigan State, it's kind of it is harder to see really obvious. Okay, when they've lost, this has kind of been their issue, or when teams have had success, this has been their issue. They have been pretty classically Izzo balanced. They've been classically Izzo tough. They really, if they get beat, they get beat, but it's usually not because they don't correct one error or they don't correct one flaw that they have. So it's hard to know what one aspect to attack them with. Doesn't mean they're unbeatable. Obviously, they're not undefeated. They're a 2 seed. They've had a great year, but they have been beat. So, I think the Lobos are really approaching this from a kind of, we really just, at this point, we got to do us. There isn't an obvious way to attack Michigan State anyway. So let's not do it. Let's just do what we do and take our chances that way. I will say that they did a lot of switching defensively against Marquette by design. They switched 1 through 5 really. They're not going to switch as much this game, and it's just because of the way the two teams are kind of set up. And I think that it'll be more classic New Mexico defense this go around. Although it worked fine for Marquette, I think they did pretty well against Marquette defensively. It just matchup wise, I don't think they want to switch the way they did against Marquette. So.
How much of that do you think has to do with the fact that this is the second game of the weekend and all that too? And you do have the scouting reports kind of put together and all that as well as preparation, but it's also you have limited time to work on things. You're doing the hotel walkthrough. You're kind of taking care of that.
Yeah, you got to remember too, like and Michigan State was the second game. They weren't out of here till well after midnight on Friday night. They had Friday, and then they did get the late game today. But this could have been 6 hours ago. This game. And basically, you get a day or day and a half to put together your scouting report and all that. Tom Izzo did talk about he had assistants scouting 2 teams. Bryant, obviously for the game 1, but kind of already scouting either opponent, Marquette or New Mexico, for game 2. I don't deny or doubt that they were scouting New Mexico at least a little bit ahead of Friday night's win. But I would guess, frankly, there is probably more time and resources put into scouting Marquette and what they would do. I could be wrong there. I mean, they might have known enough about New Mexico potentially being able to beat Marquette that maybe they did give an honest equal scout to Marquette and New Mexico ahead of being in Cleveland this week. But they did start their scout, before they beat Bryant. New Mexico, I don't think they scouted Bryant at all. So any advanced scouting they did of this game, should they win, was pretty much focused on Michigan State. And when they say there's not really one specific way that they see to attack them, it's probably true. I think the Lobos, when they're at their best, they're going inside to Nelly. And I do think that Michigan State, if anything, like if I had to pick one thing to go after, I would say, the turnovers I mentioned. But that's not a weakness that Michigan State has shown at all. I do think that inside, a good center could probably have an okay game against them. Nelly Jr. Joseph He did have 2 fouls in the first half against Marquette, but I think he ended with 2 fouls. I don't know if he had any other fouls after that. So if Nelly Jr. Joseph gets in foul trouble, the Lobos are really, really in a bad spot. Tiki Tiki, the backup 5, had some good minutes in the first half, but you can't get extended minutes at that 5 position and have a good center in there against Michigan State if it's not Nelly Jr. Joseph. So I do think the Lobos better keep him out of foul trouble, but I think they will go to him quite a bit because I think if I had to guess kind of what they might try and go after, it would be Michigan State inside. I don't think they want to mess with their guards too much.
Well, and I think, to a certain degree, like, because of the lens of which I have watched Michigan State basketball, I do think to a certain degree, like the big situation this year with Zapala and Cooper and all that, like, has almost like, I don't know if it's an amazing big situation by any stretch of the imagination. Those guys aren't all Americans. Those guys aren't all conference guys, but it's so much better than what Michigan State has had the past couple years, where for the past few seasons, really, it has been, you watch and you kind of say, like, if they just had passable play at the 5, this could be a high seed. Maybe not a 1 seed, maybe not a 2 seed, but they could be a 3 through 6 seed. And it just hasn't been there. I do agree with you, though. I do think Nelly could be an issue. I'm with you on the sense, too, that I don't think an extended run for a Tiki would bode well for New Mexico at any point in this game.
All right. As far as the fans showing up, that is right. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. Is that about right? 3.5 hours from East Lansing?
Yeah, 3.5 hours to Cleveland. Yeah.
8-hour flight for the Lobos. I can tell you that tomorrow I have my flight back tomorrow. I have a 6-hour layover in Phoenix. So hopefully I can get on to one of the earlier flights in Phoenix. But yeah, 6 hours in Phoenix is the flight I am on, returning tomorrow. So yeah, living the life. We'll be doing about 13 hours of travel total tomorrow. 2 of those Mustafa Amzil air balls were assists. I don't know that they were counted as assists, but I do believe 2 of the 3 air balls were, in fact, rebounded by the Lobos, and I guess they maybe converted into points. All right, let's see here. Games need to be earlier Sunday.
Do they?
Well, I don't know if they do or not, but I will tell you that I'm really surprised that an East Coast time zone game is starting at 8:40 Eastern time when you do have games in Denver and Seattle. I'm a little surprised that they're starting an 8:40 local time here in Cleveland game. Just, to me, it doesn't make sense. If you do have games dotted across the map, utilize the time zones in some sort of strategic sense. But anyway, you're okay with late games, though? You're okay with watching all day, Sean?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm young. I don't have really a lot of obligations in my life outside of, watching games and all that too. So I don't really get to bed at a good time anyways.
Got some people saying what's up to each other here. All right, Christy, let's see. How much media interest / familiarity with the Lobos in Cleveland? More or less than expected. I would say the media interest and familiarity is really low. The media interest here has been with Richard Pitino because he was in Minnesota for 8 years and in the Big Ten for 8 years, and in the Midwest, it's Big Ten country. So an awful lot of familiarity and interest in the Richard Pitino playing Tom Izzo kind of factor and storyline. But Marquette's one of Marquette's big sites, fan sites, had on Twitter the other day, what the hell is a Lobo? And then acknowledged afterwards, Lobo is Spanish. I think they said Lobo is Spanish for better at basketball than we are, which it is not. But nobody that I've run into has a whole lot of UNM familiarity. Everybody knows Donovan Dent, but I think, in some ways, the Donovan Dent familiarity, I'd be willing to bet not a whole lot of media here have watched Donovan Dent play. You hear the names across the country every now and then, and you look at stats, and you're like, oh yeah, New Mexico has this guy named Donovan Dent scoring a lot of points, whatever. I'd be shocked if, looking around the media room, it is halftime, so there are a lot more people in here. I'd be shocked if, 1 1 out of every 5 reporters here and probably 1 out of every 10 people in this media room have seen Donovan Dent play before they played Marquette the other night. They might have heard of him, but I don't think there was much familiarity or watching of Mountain West basketball amongst the media that is here in Cleveland right now.
I think we've all had like a kind of a trendy mid-major guard that we've watched like once, and we're like, yeah, I love this guy 100%. I'm picking him to win in the bracket, and then they get blown out by like 30. But yeah, I think we've all done that.
And Donovan Dent is a little bit of that guy this year, and he was on a couple lists of potential breakout stars of the tournament. You'll know this name when, and Donovan Dent was that guy for some of those stories leading into the tournament and games on Thursday. And he lived up to it, right? I mean, look, he had a horrible first half, but he was in absolute control of the final 8:27 of that Marquette game. He scored 11 of their final 22 points, assisted on 6 other points. So 17 of UNM's final 22 points were because of Donovan Dent. And, of the other, 5 of the other 5, I know 2 were True Washington free throws. I think Stoff had another free throw. So, look, Donovan Dent, and Shaka said it after the game, he had more poise than anybody on the court, and despite having 8 turnovers for an All-American level or certainly honorable mention level point guard,
not like good turnovers a lot of the time too. Not ideal turnovers to have.
I would tell you 3 of them were unforced errors completely. Pitino kind of tried to have his back and say, not all of them were his fault. Well, of 8 turnovers, 2 of them maybe weren't his fault. 6 of them were on Donovan, and at least 3 of those 6 that were absolutely on Donovan were like just bad, put in the, a walk-on or a guy not used to big minutes kind of moment, has just a bad play kind of thing. And Donovan has been better than that. And he would tell you that. And so when I talked to him after the game, he said, look, yeah, I know. It was as bad a start as I could have had. And he said at halftime his teammates just had his back, right? Like they carried him. It was CJ Nolan and Philip Borovishinin had a combined 5 3-pointers in the first half, and UNM's not a big 3-point shooting team. But those 5 3-pointers in the first half kind of ensured that the Lobos still had a lead at halftime despite their star point guard playing horribly and kind of hurting the team a little bit. So, Joe, let's see what you got here. All right, Joe on YouTube is saying, watching Kenny Smith yesterday on CBS halftime, he mentioned that 3-point shooters were more accurate when turning the treads left to right, rather than just quickly throwing the ball up. Good tip. Right. Joe, I actually saw that email. I believe, I'm assuming since it's the same topic, somebody in circulation got an email forwarded to me this morning, and see if I could pass it along to the team is what it said.
Those are the best. Those are good ones. You're a prolific 3-point shooter yourself. Do you agree with Kenny?
I'll tell you this. I haven't missed a 3-pointer this season.
All right.
Noah is telling us on YouTube, active hands wins this game. The Lobos are at their best when they're getting deflections, when True Washington is active, and as Shaka Smart said, he's one of the best on-ball defenders with his hands in the entire country, and he is. He knows how to defend without fouling so much better this year and late this year, frankly, than earlier this year, and certainly better than last year as a freshman. True Washington's become a premier perimeter defender. I don't have gripes too much with too many Mountain West awards. I will say True Washington not being on first team all conference, all defense rather, that one bothered me a little bit. I think when the Lobos changed their defensive principles and scheme to putting True on the primary ball handler of opponents earlier in this year, that's when they passed San Diego State in defense and Mountain West play and efficiency, and they were ranked number 1 in defense. It wasn't San Diego State in Mountain West play. It wasn't San Diego State. It was UNM that had a higher ranked defense, and True Washington being on the primary ball handler of the opponent kind of got there. So to your point, Noah, yeah, active hands wins the game. Active hands certainly will give them a chance. That's for sure. I have not seen Rick Pitino. I'm sure if Rick Pitino was here, though, there are several dozen reporters in here that would certainly make it a story. I don't know if any of the Albuquerque reporters would, but I'm sure every Lobo player will be asked about Rick Pitino. We got Frank Mercogliano here in the background. Frank, what's up?
That is Frank Mercogliano. Frank, you going to be in town for Pro Day? Oh, he can't hear me, probably.
Are you going to be in town for Pro Day?
I will not.
He will not. Will not.
Okay.
So he's actually doing some work now. Somebody asked him to help out with something. So let's see here. What else we got? Hold on, Frank. Let's do this. All right, Sean, we can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Kind of hear you. Not very well.
Kind of? Sort of?
Sort of. All right. Joshua, I wonder what seed we would be if we didn't lose to San Jose State and New Mexico State. It would have probably been on the other side of the 8-9 line. It would have been, 7, maybe 6.
7.
Frank's going with the 7. But yeah, 6 or 7. It wouldn't have been in the 8-9 game, that's for sure. GPAC Lobo on YouTube is saying, Nelly and Atiki in there together for the first time this season? Nope. I would say that that Richard Pitino does not plan to play those two big minutes together, if at all. He has tried it a couple times, but he said that when they've done it in practice, it's been ugly. So I don't see that happening, especially when they don't have anybody behind them. If you're getting both in foul trouble, you alternate them. Let's see. Gigi and Sean, thank you for the show. Have my fingers and eyes crossed that we can do it if we play to our capability. And Frank can attest here. I got this like messed up screen that's hard to read these, but
I feel like we're in a split screen.
I know, right? Because there's a line right between where Frank, I'm like blessing us.
We're gonna need it.
All right. Is Sean frozen here? Sean, are you still there?
You're there.
Sean is frozen. Did the coin make a pick? No, I can actually send a text home and maybe get a pick, but let's see here. Sean has left the building. Let's see if Sean comes back here. But no, the coin. I got Frank here. Sean or the coin has not made a pick. I can tell you though that the coin did make a bracket and has. So my 5-year-old made her first bracket this year and has New Mexico winning it. She also had Mount St. Mary's beating Duke in the first round. So, and she really liked the name Wofford because she kept saying it was Wofford. So Wofford's going deep in her bracket. That won't help her. But there we go. The coin though does have New Mexico going, I think, beyond this round. So Sean, you froze. I'm getting a text message telling me that Sean froze. Sean's actually, his phone actually left the studio here. So, all right, what else we got here? Joe is saying, "Go Lobos! You can win this, no matter the critics. Be the aggressor. Live to eat another team. Live to eat another team." Okay, Lobos. I will say that like Sean and I were talking about earlier, Michigan State being a team that has so little obvious ways to go at them, that I think the Lobos just approach us as a we do us and kind of play our game and take our chances.
I'm watching that first half with St. Mary's. The length of Alabama is forcing that they are just doing things that they don't normally do. The way they shoot, the way they're driving, and they're doing things that they haven't done all year long. That they need to do is do what they've done: drive in there and just play basketball. They're changing their style, and they don't need to do that.
Yeah, I do think like they saw something in Marquette. Did the Lobos that there are some things they could attack, right? Michigan State, I just don't know what you attack, so you just do what you do and play with it. And that's what Frank's saying they're doing out there. And it is 42-29 right now. And
Sean's coming back.
See if Sean pops up here. He's
Let's
actually
Sean. Ooh, you gotta show that one, right?
Yeah, let's do it right here. What is this? I haven't even read it yet.
Any
smoke to the Richard Pitino Villanova
Xavier rumors?
The Villanova one, sure, yeah. I mean, I think he would take it if it gets offered.
Xavier just opened up like an hour ago.
Yeah, I don't know about the Xavier part of it. But yeah, I mean,
Here's what I would say for the fans that are watching for this kind of stuff. Like, we don't live in a bubble, and obviously we know what's going on as far as. First of all, it is an honor, right? People want your coach.
Yep.
They're trying to actively take your coach. That's a good thing. That means that we have a good thing and people want it. Our administration, do they know? Of course they know. And are they actively working, behind the scenes? Of course they are. They are professionals. They do everything they can in their power to we want this to continue and go on,
Yep.
and someone throws $8 million at somebody, you go, well, see ya. Right.
And I'll say this about that too. And I've talked with Fern this week about this very thing. There's a lot of administrators here on this trip. There's a lot of alumni that out east and in the Midwest that have shown up here. And
they're very happy that we won.
They're very happy. Yep. And there is fundraising going on, and fundraising can be for a lot of things, including, keeping the coach happy and keeping the program happy.
My thing just for the fans is that they just need to know that the administration and Fern and his people,
it won't be without a try.
Yeah, they are working.
An honest try.
What they're doing. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. They were up late.
Yeah.
I know they've been up late one of these nights, just going over numbers and things. Yeah. And so so just understand it's this is fun, and this is a great trip, and it's really fun. But there's also a work aspect to it for those guys, and they are working very hard.
People are starting to ask, is Sean switching up? I don't know. The Michigan State switch. Hey, Sean, can you hear us, Sean? Let's see if we have audio from you. Sean's camera is not working, but unless he is not by his phone right now, I don't think his audio is working either. Oh, you there, Sean? Yeah. All right, let's take Sean back off for now and answer some more of these questions.
This is going well.
Yeah, I know. This is wonderful. Has Sean got his head right in supporting the Lobos tonight? He doesn't
work for UNM, and he's a Michigan State graduate.
He is a Michigan State fan.
That's where it should be. That's fine.
Yeah. Nelly was waving off defenders so he could guard Cam.
He was.
He absolutely was. And he stayed out of foul trouble. Mm-hmm. Usually a guard on a big will create fouls for that big. And
he's really improved. He wasn't great at that at the beginning of the year. He was actually really good the other day.
Got great feet for a big man. Is coach still making Donovan and Nelly shoot 100 free throws before each game? I don't know if they still are. The whole 100 free throw thing that he said, everybody on the team does it. So I don't.
Yeah, they all should.
I mean, he said it was like something he made Nelly and Donovan do. Deli, I just made him into one guy. But they all do that. So I don't know what that was necessarily about. All right. Hate to break it to America, but rooting for two Mountain West teams are the only chances you have left to get chaos at all in this tournament.
Well, there's three non-power 4 schools left. One of them's losing by 13, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if Geoff has shown you this. There's a giant old Rocket Arena scoreboard is here, so we just have a scoreboard.
Yeah, it is.
It's St. Mary's, us, and Colorado State. That's it.
It is. All right, I'm going to try Sean. Actually, I'll wait to try Sean one more time. Hold on. But yeah, rooting for Colorado State is accurate. Let's have some chaos and maybe we can get some of this. All right, this says, do the Lobos need guards to dribble drive to win this as opposed to relying heavily on Joseph? Yeah, I do think they'll need both. And look, at their best, they're getting in the paint one way or the other. It's either if you can get the entry passes into Nelly. Nelly's been really good in the low post one-on-one, and certainly when the traps come, he's been pretty good at passing out of those. But the guards need to penetrate, and Donovan at his best is getting in the paint. So I would say they do need a little bit of both. Jerry, lifelong Lobo fan, and I certainly don't feel like this will be easy.
Michigan State, Jerry. It's not going to be easy.
It won't be easy. I agree with you. I just have a feeling about this game. Hashtag shock the world. Shock the world is what Patino said the other day. They're here to try and do, right? And look, if you believe in a team being due, a hitter being due, Lobos do lead Division I basketball in second round appearances without getting to the Sweet 16. So there we are. I don't know what I got on my shirt here.
It's probably food.
Yeah, I know, but I don't even know what I ate that looked like that.
It's a fair question. We're wearing red, Josh. Their coaches are wearing the same stuff they wore the other day. Steve's wearing the same gear. He's probably got the same underwear on. We're rooming together. I don't know if that's true, but
apparently I got a dirty shirt on too. I didn't even realize that, but I don't know what's on there. I don't know what I ate that it even looks like that. All right, Lobos play a fast pace and usually end up tiring teams out around the 10-minute mark left. Yeah, Michigan State does the same, playing deep in their rotation, blah, blah, blah. Which wins out tonight? So I will say this, depth in college basketball, especially in the NCAA tournament, I don't think actually matters. Yeah. Them being a 10 deep team, I don't think it matters unless you're getting into foul trouble or injuries. The NCAA and Frank, why don't you tell us what are the additions or the new rules in the NCAA tournament?
So the NCAA tournament, the timeouts usually during the season are about a minute 45. Each timeout is 2:30. So, and then you have the in and the out. So you have a little extra time. It's almost 3 minutes by the time you get going on the commercial breaks. Every time you have a 30-second timeout, they actually extend it just a smidge because of the commercials. And normally the first time half is a full media timeout.
Yep.
They do the same in the first half. So there's one team is always going to use that use it or lose a timeout. So you're going to have an extra timeout. So like you have enough time. You can play. UNM the other day, what's that? And halftime's 20 minutes instead of 15. The last game in the second half, other than Jovan playing 1 minute, the only subs was CJ.
Yeah.
It was literally those 6 guys.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say any of them looked any
Nelly
more
played the
or
whole
less
half.
tired.
Drew, I think, played the whole half except for about 1 minute. And Donovan played the whole half.
So I will say this though, to the first part of your point there about the Lobos tend to kind of hit that 10-minute mark and other teams seem a little worn out. I don't think that'll happen today.
No, I don't think so either.
Hey, Sean, can you hear us? You're back up on the stage. Can you hear us? If you can, I can't hear you. So take you back down here for a second. All right. I like the Lobos' chances in a match like this better as a number 10 rather than like a 7. Might get Michigan State, not take them seriously enough. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that could be true. I think the name you're probably right, but the name New Mexico just doesn't look. New Mexico fans are big on it, but this week the amount of talking about like the Lobos themselves has been pretty minimal, and I just think that there is a lot of overlooking. I don't know if that would have changed a whole lot at number 7. It might have, but I think there's been overlooking. I think people know the name Donovan Dent, and I do think people know the name Nelly Jr. Joseph, but I don't think a whole lot of people know the style of the Lobos and stuff like that. But Tom Izzo does. I don't think Michigan State's going to be caught by surprise, with anything. What we got here? Do you think if they had to pick money-wise, would they rather keep Patino or Dent for one more year? It's just one more year.
I'm staying out of that one.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a fair question. That's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, certainly the Dent question is so contingent on who the head coach would be and how he uses a point guard that it's kind of hard to tell. So let me block my little stain on my shirt here. All right. Let me hide that one. Oh, thanks for the coverage. I appreciate you guys being here and filling out the show. Deli, Donovan Dynamite, and Nelly serving up Spartan sandwiches tonight. All right.
Okay.
There we go.
That's a good question right here.
Patino picture. You know what? I know the story behind that picture, by the way. That's him at the airport.
That's him at the airport. That's not the other picture.
I know. But I know that.
Not the other picture.
Yeah, I know the other story to that. Sorry, a little inside baseball. Okay, are the Lobos feeling comfortable using the Wilson NCAA tournament ball?
This is day 4. So they used it in the practices leading up to the tournament. So they got a little bit of practice with that. Because you get tournament balls after and so we used it for there. They obviously shot around with it the other day. They used it in their actual practice because you have the fake practice in here on Wednesday. It was Wednesday, Thursday. They used the real one. Then they played and they felt pretty good. I mean, we shot the ball okay.
Yeah.
It's different. It's a different ball. It is different, but they've been okay with it.
No, it's real. The whole change of the ball thing is real on these teams. And the Mountain West has sort of had to deal with that through the years because there's 3 different balls in the Mountain West. I mean, for a long time, if I remember correctly, Colorado State was using Under Armour ball, and they were the only one doing that. And then there were 2 other ones. In New Mexico,
Wyoming uses an Adidas ball.
Yeah, New Mexico forever has used the Nike Elite, whatever the most common one.
Yeah.
The Lobos do use that one, but it's not what they're using in the NCAA tournament. All right, Bob is saying, first 10 minutes in, what do you see happening that makes you think the Lobos have a real shot? Well, I mean, Donovan Dent, first of all, they have 2 really good players, and you're only playing 5 at a time, right? Michigan State is 10 deep, but you're only playing 5 at a time, and the Lobos have 2 really good players that would be absolutely be playing in the Big Ten as well. True Washington would be playing in the Big Ten as well, too, I think. So talent-wise, in terms of starters and at the top of the roster, it's sort of the depth that comes into play a little bit that, as we just discussed, doesn't really come into play for the NCAA tournament that much. So I do think the Lobos have a chance.
If you watched the last game, the moment wasn't too big, especially when it went to to me, the biggest play of the game, by the way. It went to 51-48 them. They went up 51-48. We had the ball. Donovan ends up having to kind of force a three. Hits the rim. True gets the rebound, gives it to Stoff. Stoff misses the three, and he airballed it. Normally that ball just goes out of bounds.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Phillip was
That was
there,
the Phillip
and grabbed it, and then laid it in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was like, okay, we're still okay. And that moment wasn't too big for any of them. And I don't think even down the stretch it wasn't too big. So I'd be shocked.
There were moments that Lobo fans, certainly you guys watching, probably felt it just as much as it could be felt in the arena. But like there were moments that you're like, okay, here's where Marquette makes their run, and they never made a big run. It was never one big run. So, look, I just don't think the Lobos the Lobos are more adaptable this year than they were last year. They're bigger, their defense is better. They can adapt to teams a lot better. So I just don't think they're a team that doesn't match up with anybody really. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I think that they also won't be embarrassed because of or exploited in any single matchup.
There you go. We're proving the point for Joshua. Proving our point.
Yep. Thanks for the answer, Frank. Jeff researched the second half of Marquette game. The Lobos didn't use a sub. Yeah, the last 10 minutes at all makes more sense why that was sustainable. And I had mentioned that earlier to somebody. I don't know if I was telling that to somebody earlier, but yeah, I mean I was telling Lucas back in Albuquerque.
Any more questions from me before I go?
Yeah, Frank's about to have to go. Let's see.
Oh, here we go. Frank, can I get CBS?
Let's jump to this one first. Frank, can you get CBS to change the abbreviation from New Mexico to
So CBS has their own abbreviations for various things and different things, and it's done before the season. We make recommendations for things, but they put in whatever they put in. We have to do all that stuff in advance. I'm just thankful the logo's right because the logo was wrong on the bus when we got here. And it's wrong at the hotel. It's the old version with
it's not the
it's the right version. Just we tweaked
the right school.
Yeah, they just tweak. It's not the new tweak one, but the one in the building's good. So it's just it's a CBS thing that they do, and once they do it for the year, they never really like to change it. It's shocking how they always ask us what color jersey we're wearing because they want the score bug to match what your jersey is, which is why sometimes when we wear turquoise, you'll notice the score bugs turquoise. If we don't give them that enough in advance, it's a pain for them to fix it.
There you go. There's nothing else here that is Frank specific, so you can jump out if you want.
I'm going to grab a Twizzler. I have Twizzlers. I'm going to grab a Twizzler and then go to the thing.
Frank, thanks for being on. I will see if Sean can jump back in. I'm going to put the headphone mic back in.
Make sure everybody. This is Flat Behringer. He's been all over the place. Flat Behringer has.
Nephew, right?
Yeah, it's my nephew.
That is a nephew appearance for Frank. All right, let's get back. Michael said, what's going to be the deciding factor for this game? I guess if I have to pick one, and there's a lot of things that it could be, obviously. Nelly staying out of foul trouble, I think, is going to be a key to this one. I do think Donovan, I'd be really surprised if Donovan has back-to-back games where he's like struggling for a half like he did. Now, he was pretty dominant down the stretch in the second half
more than one?
and had a good game overall. So I think Donnie should be fine. I think True should be fine. If Nelly gets in foul trouble, I think that could be a problem.
No, Chris.
Will free throw defense be the difference? Could be. It could be. They are number 2 in the country, so and the best team left in the tournament. Why would a team not use the NCAA tournament ball all year? Because of contractual obligations like Nike. Is the answer there. UNM is a Nike team, a Nike school. They will use the Nike ball. Some schools have other apparel or equipment type agreements that companies will pay for this or that, including equipment and stuff like that, and that kind of ties them into what equipment they use sometimes. And that goes for all sports. You know, a softball team might get some glove sponsor, and they usually require all the players to use that glove, you know. The Lobos get to next weekend. Who's the better matchup between Ole Miss and Iowa State? Couldn't tell you. Iowa State, it depends on Keyshawn Gilbert, I would say. I mean, he's former UNLV player, by the way. But, you know, with him out, I don't think Iowa State's the same team by any stretch of the imagination. And I would say Ole Miss, Ole Miss wasn't a team that impressed me all year. Relative. I'm not saying they weren't a good top 25 level team all year. I'm just saying, like, if we're talking, do I think if I was predicting before the tournament Ole Miss making like an Elite Eight run or a Final Four run, I certainly wouldn't have picked Ole Miss. So I don't know that it matters at that point. I mean, matchup wise, I'll give you a better answer if they do win, and I have to look into that. But the Keyshawn Gilbert injury is the one thing that comes to mind really quick for me on that one. What else do we got? A couple more here. I think that's about it. Let's see. Marcus saying Jalen Lake is having himself a tournament so far. Absolutely right. I am going to wrap up here, guys. I will give you a quick update here. Colorado State, for those that aren't watching, with 7:39 left in the first half, is up 24-19 on Maryland. So got some Mountain West success going on there, and they were a 7.5 point favorite, underdog rather, as well. The Lobos are 6.5 to 7.5 point underdogs right now. Do a quick update there. Still looks at 6.5 where I'm looking right now. That was up to 7.5 for a while. Looks like it got bet back down to 6.5. So, all right, guys. From the Rocket Arena media room, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I will see if after I write tonight, you know, what we may be able to do in terms of another one of these. It'd be really late though, obviously. So don't know how many of you guys would even be there. Well, that's a good question. I could ask Steve real quick. But yeah, there are no alternate uniforms like the turquoise and stuff like that. I don't know the answer to that. Let's see if we got any down here that are new. Mexico, Colorado State Final Four. Why not? Why doesn't Patino ever ask if Grammer is taking a job at the Post? That's right. He's right. What is it? All right, guys. Follow the coverage, abqjournal.com. If you can help support local journalism, please do so. abqjournal.com/subscribe is how you can subscribe to our digital version or our print version. We've had a ton of coverage this week. We've had a couple podcasts. We've had a lot of videos posted, shows like this, stuff like that. So appreciate you guys for following along. Of course, stories as well. And hope you guys can support local journalism if you can. There will be more of these shows starting after the season when Sean and I kind of get back to some sort of regular weekly format, and Sean's obviously covering the spring ball and all that kind of stuff. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and should be a fun one tonight. Hope you guys are all following along in the coverage, and I imagine pretty much anybody who's watching the stream will be watching the game as well. There you go. Thanks, guys.